Transition now to the running backs here, and there's a long list of players to be looking at as options. Now, some of them are tied in together, so you have Dolphins guys together, Eagles guys together, Chargers guys together, Texans guys together. So there's a lot of things at play here with not necessarily adding the second guy, but just something to consider. So let's talk about Rashad Penny, because I think he's the prize of free agency. We might have been burying the lead a little bit in terms of our waiver wire show, but Penny coming off an amazing game, 2 touchdowns against the Houston Texans, ran for over 100 yards. Probably could have had more carries if the game was competitive. And you heard Pete Carroll on Monday say it's nice to have a home run hitter in the backfield again. So Heath, I'll let both of you guys chime in on this. How good can Rashad Penny be taking on a Rams defense that clearly is a step up in competition from the Texans defense that he just faced?
This is the chicken parm of the waiver wire this week. If you wake up and don't get him, you just throw your phone in disgust and move on, because you're not going to have a very successful week. In all seriousness, I would anticipate him seeing 18 plus touches in this game. I think he probably catches maybe even 2 passes. He was more involved in the passing game than the targets suggested last week. And when Pete Carroll starts glowing about someone, that it's just a surefire thing that he's going to get a huge workload. That's not necessarily true.
You just lost every tiebreaker and named that player tomorrow with that shot. What do you think about Penny?
First of all, I think there should be enough chicken parm for everybody. That's just my own personal belief. Plenty of chicken parm. Yeah. I like what I saw from him.
Did you like the chicken parm?
It was delicious. I wish everybody could have had some so they could enjoy it as well. Rashad Penny played really well, and I know it was against Houston, and that's a terrible run defense, and the Rams are a full 180 from that. But I think the Seahawks are going to stick with him, and they're going to continue to give him the opportunity to be the main running back. I like him as a number 2 rusher, and I think fantasy managers should try and make him their own this week. If you're number 1 on the waiver wire, yes, whether you need him or not, get him, stash him on your bench so other people in the fantasy playoffs can't use him. I don't know if he's necessarily the guy to spend the rest of your fab on if you don't need a running back, but otherwise, spend the rest of your money, whatever you got left. If you need a running back this week, he's absolutely the one to go and get, because he's got the biggest opportunity.
They've been waiting for this. They've been waiting for somebody to step forward since Chris Carson went out with the neck injury, and so far he's the one to have the best performance, and hopefully continues for the rest of the season. Let's talk about the Eagles here, because it's not just Boston Scott. It's not just Kenneth Gainwell. Jordan Howard's at 23%. He should be factored into this as well in terms of where his roster percentage is. But Howard's dealing with this knee injury that cost him the last 2 games, then going into their bye week. Miles Sanders re-aggravated the ankle injury that he was dealing with a few weeks prior to their bye week as well. So give me the breakdown, Heath, of the Eagles' backfield for this week.
We need a flow chart for the next 3 backfields we're going to talk about, but the way I would look at it is, if Miles Sanders is there, Miles Sanders is the only one I want to start. If Miles Sanders is not there and Jordan Howard is there, then Jordan Howard's my favorite. If Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard are both out, then Boston Scott's a borderline number 2 running back, and Kenneth Gainwell's a good flex.
All right, so we'll see what happens. Again, this is one of those weekly injury reports you have to keep an eye on, because we haven't heard anything yet about Sanders or Howard playing. I'm in total agreement with you. We'll find out, though, if Kenneth Gainwell, the last 2 games for him, has maybe pushed him ahead of Boston Scott, so something to keep in mind there if you are making your waiver wire moves. But Scott at least had the bigger role prior to Sanders and Howard, going down. All right, Dave, let's talk about the Lions running backs here, because DeAndre Swift, there is some talk about maybe him returning from the shoulder injury. Jamal Williams was out with being placed on the COVID-19 list, so he's definitely eligible to return this week. But as those guys were both out, we did not see Jamar Jefferson. We did not see enough of Godwin Igwebuike. It was Craig Reynolds as the lead running back. And so if there is the same situation, no Swift, no Williams, is Craig Reynolds a borderline starter in a much tougher matchup against the Arizona Cardinals?
Definitely tougher, but the Cardinals have allowed a touchdown to a running back for their last 6 games. I have a hard time believing he's going to get to 100 total yards. He came really close to it, as close as you can get against Denver. That just tells me that he's talented. And we saw it in the preseason as well, that he was a good, talented running back. I hesitate to say that he's the number 2 guy to go get off the waiver wire, though, because all it takes is Williams or Swift being healthy enough to play, and he might be back on the practice squad, much less in a reserve role.
I'm going to guess, just so people are watching, typically in these type of moves, they put the guy back on the practice squad. So if you see that and you still want to pick him up, you can go ahead and do it, because it's just a procedural move.
But unless they saw enough from him to move him ahead of Jamal Williams, because there's no way they'd move him ahead of DeAndre Swift, he could end up being a total bust for you off the waiver wire. So I'd be really careful going about adding Reynolds. He could be maybe your 3rd or 4th go-around, and maybe only spend $1 or $2 a fab on him.